Half an hour heads up to go get yourself a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you prefer as we look at the front pages of the morning newspapers.
Yep.
Executive editor of the Sowetan, Tabiso Takadi, joining us this morning. Always good to have you with us, Tabiso. Let's take a look at your paper, the Sowetan. You got those photos. We were just talking about this, weren't we? Operation Dudula. You got a photo at the top there as well. It was meant to be peaceful, but as we saw, it didn't quite go that way. It's a very emotive issue. Jobs for locals versus jobs for foreigners. Good morning, Tabiso.
Good morning, Gareth. Yes, of course, we saw the events unfolding over the weekend, quite unfortunate one. Of course, this group wants to tell us that they are quite peaceful in the manner in which they are going about this particular issue of trying to say that they feel quite aggrieved that there are quite a number of jobs in certain sectors, if you look at them, at the retail and informal traders, have been taken up by foreign nationals. But of course, there's a concern really about the number of emotions that actually appear to be running high consistently, and particularly the elements of vigilantism that seems to creep in this particular campaign. And I think the concern here is also to do with the fact that what we are seeing on the streets is an expression of a loss of trust in the law enforcement and in the government and the leaders to be able to carry out their mandate in ensuring that the laws are enforced.
But we also see a story there at the Sowetan, equally important to highlight, Tabiso, about the Varsity debt, which is hitting students at this time. They're back in school, or they're in university or institutions of higher learning. However, they still have those debts that they have to honor, and it's quite a despair of, for these students, rather, when we talk about unpaid fees.
Yes, absolutely, Dumelo. The issue really is one that keeps coming up every year, but in particular, the one we're trying to really highlight in the paper today is focused on both the plight of the students and the plight of the university. So on the one hand, you have universities that actually says that debt levels are quite concerning to them, with non-payment of tuition fees that dates back to many years. On the other hand, you also have students, and these are kind of students that will actually fall through the cracks, the so-called missing middle rather. These students, in a nutshell, are those that don't fit in the criteria of being covered by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. And yet at the same time, they don't have money to basically to cover some of their fees. So what is happening here is that constantly at the beginning of academic year, we're seeing these protests about financial exclusions, and we are anticipating and we are telling this story in that regard, saying that there's a growing number of those that find themselves facing this particular predicament.
So that's what's happening in the Star this morning as well. It's always a very, very good front page, nice and focused. Varsity debt hit students, and also what's happening with Operation Dudula. I also like early birthday cheer for 119-year-old granny, 119-year-old gogo. You can get the Star newspaper for that. It's a lot of candles on a birthday cake. The Star newspaper, quickly, Tabiso, if we could. We won't talk about the Dacha story and Lamola. I just want to focus on CR slammed for jobs policy shift, all to do with the State of the Nation address. The president getting a bit of flack, isn't he, about the fact that he thinks the private sector also needs to play a much bigger part about creating jobs. Some people are not happy with that kind of commentary.
Yeah, not quite surprising, Gareth, at all, because if you actually consider the ANC, it describes itself as a broad church, so that has all these competing interests and ideological differences among its members. And so this particular story seems to have focused the attention particularly on the fact that the Tripartite Alliance members are not happy about what the president says. Their view is that they believe that government is there. It's the government's duty to actually ensure that there is a conducive environment for business to create, but they believe that they can regulate that by ensuring that the private sector does not operate in a manner that is driven by profit, therefore at the expense of workers. So it's a very interesting story, and I think it's one that we should look out for. The discussion is going to continue long after the SONA is done.
Yeah, and also the witness there, some news coming out of KZN there. We're seeing Tabiso, more drama as KZN prison boss Nxele suspended once again. What's the story there, especially with all these suspensions around government officials that we are seeing, or even law enforcement officials at that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is also quite a disturbing story to think about it. You say now you guys were basically relating a story from Gauteng of suspensions of officials with regard to the hospital in the West Rand. So in the KZN here, we are looking at somebody who appeared to have been quite prone to suspensions, being on suspension again. And I think the issue that it raises here is, quite the integrity of the processes that are put in place insofar as dealing with allegations of whatever, misdeeds that are committed by officials in government. So why was he suspended first and brought back, and why is he being suspended now? I think those are the kind of issues that are going to be continued to raise in the public discourse.
Thabiso, always good to have you with us this morning. Just before I let you go as well, though, I just want to finish off on this. Love struck. It's Valentine's Day, of course. We're all panicking a little bit. But here's what the question was we were asking, and the witness picks up on that photo they've got. Team, let's flip this newspaper again. One more time, team. You'll see what I'm talking about. It is Ronald Govins and Lorette Govender choosing to celebrate a day before Valentine's, but they've mentioned the price of roses.
Yeah, how much?
570 Rand.
570.
Is it a bunch of roses? I just outed myself. Is it a bunch of roses?
Probably.
A lot of roses. It's 570 Rand. Thabiso, are you ready for Valentine's Day? Look into camera, say yes or no.
Gareth, if my wife wasn't in the house, I was going to say no, but I will have to say yes because I will be in trouble.
And that's how we upset the Takadi household this early in the morning. Thabiso, thank you very much. Indeed,
Thanks,
I didn't mean to cause trouble. I really didn't.
Thanks,
of course you did.
The shop's open at 8 o'clock, Thabiso, you can still make
question.
it. Executive editor of the Sowetan, Thabiso Takadi, joining us on the show.